Far beyond Earth's atmosphere, the spacecraft Juno soared silently through space. Its destination? A tiny, fiery moon named Io, orbiting the massive gas giant, Jupiter. Unlike the cold, lifeless surfaces of many moons in the solar system, Io was alive, with fire. Inside NASA's mission control room, the atmosphere buzzed with excitement. Engineers and scientists, wearing headsets and staring intently at large screens, waited for data from Juno. After years of preparation and months of travel, Juno was finally close enough to Io to capture details never seen before. Telemetry confirmed. "We're receiving the first images," announced a technician, her voice breaking the silence. The room erupted into applause. Slowly, the images began to appear on the giant monitors. At first, they looked like abstract patterns of red and black, but soon, details sharpened. Io's surface was revealed. Yellow plains streaked with red and black patches. Bright, glowing spots dotted the moon, hinting at intense volcanic activity. "What's that?" someone exclaimed, pointing to a particular image. The room grew quiet as a close-up view of a lava lake filled the screen. The lake, encircled by steep cliffs, shimmered with a molten glow. Around its edges, a thin ring of fiery lava contrasted sharply with the solid crust covering the rest of the lake. "It's a caldera," explained Dr. Sarah Lynn, the lead geologist on the team. "A depression formed when a volcano erupts and collapses. But this one is enormous. The size of this lake alone is larger than some cities." Another image showed volcanic plumes, towers of gas and particles, rising high above Io's surface. The scientists stared in awe, realizing they were witnessing eruptions powerful enough to reach into space. "About 3% of Io's surface is covered in these lakes," Sarah continued, marveling at the data. "And it's not just the lava, it's the activity below. What kind of forces could create so much heat on a tiny moon like Io?" The team watched as more images and heat maps streamed in. Io was unlike anything they had seen before. A world shaped by fire, its surface constantly renewed by eruptions. Each discovery brought more questions than answers. What lay beneath this volcanic world? Could such intense activity be sustained for millions of years? As the data flowed, Juno continued its silent orbit, a robotic explorer unveiling the mysteries of a moon that seemed to breathe fire. For the scientists at NASA, the adventure was just beginning. Dr. Elena Vasquez, a planetary geologist, leaned over her desk, eyes fixed on the high-resolution images of Io displayed on her screen. These weren't just pictures. They were windows into the fiery soul of a distant moon. She traced the outlines of a glowing lava lake, partially hidden beneath a thick, solid crust. Only the edges of the lake glowed with exposed molten rock, creating a bright ring against the surrounding darkness. "This is amazing," she said aloud, though her lab was empty. She tapped her headset. "Team, look at the structure here. The lava crust covers most of the lake, but the edges, they're actively glowing." Her colleague, Ravi, responded from the NASA Control Center. "It's like a shielded cauldron," he remarked. "The crust traps the heat and only the edge shows us what's underneath." Dr. Elena nodded, though Ravi couldn't see her. "Exactly. This changes how we think about Io's volcanic activity. The old theory suggested one massive magma ocean under the surface. But these lakes suggest something different, individual magma chambers fueling each volcano." She pulled up another image, this one a heat map. It showed intense activity beneath Io's surface, with over 400 active volcanoes scattered across the moon. "See how localized the heat is?" Elena continued. "These chambers aren't connected on a global scale. Each volcano seems to have its own magma supply. The team had long believed that tidal forces from Jupiter's massive gravity were the main source of Io's internal heat. As Io orbited, it was pulled and squeezed, generating immense friction inside. This heat melted the moon's rocky interior, fueling its volcanic eruptions. "But the patterns we're seeing suggest a more complex system," Elena added. "The crust acts like a cap. Magma builds pressure beneath it, rising and breaking through at specific points. And the crust isn't static. It moves up and down, cycling like a living surface. Elena opened a model simulation on her computer. It showed magma rising into a lake, where it met the crust. The crust sank slightly, cracking at the edges as magma spilled out and cooled. Then, new magma pushed upward again, continuing the cycle. "This is why we don't see lava spilling everywhere," she explained. "The walls of these lakes, calderas, are hundreds of meters high. They keep the magma contained, and the constant cycling explains the glowing rings we see at the edges." Ravi chuckled. "It's like Earth's lava lakes, but Io's version is on steroids." Elena smiled at the comparison. "Exactly. Io isn't just active, it's extreme, and each volcano is a self-contained system, working in perfect balance." As more data poured in from Juno, Dr. Elena felt a mix of awe and humility. Io was teaching them that even in the most alien corners of the solar system, nature followed its own rules, rules waiting to be discovered. For the first time, scientists could see beneath the crust of the most volcanic place in the solar system, and it was far more intricate than they had ever imagined. Far above Io's chaotic surface, the Juno spacecraft drifted silently, its sensors locked onto a target below, Chors Patera, one of the moon's massive lava lakes. This was no ordinary lake. It was a bubbling inferno, its molten surface radiating heat and light into the icy vacuum of space. Inside Juno, the JIRAM instrument, Jovian Infrared Auroral Mapper, sprang to life. It scanned the lake, collecting high-resolution infrared images, capturing details invisible to human eyes. Back on Earth, the data streamed into NASA's control center, each new image added to the growing mosaic of Io's fiery surface. Dr. Elena Vasquez was in the observation room, her coffee forgotten on the desk beside her. "Look at this," she exclaimed, pointing to the screen. The image showed a clear view of Chors Patera, its surface mostly covered by a thick, dark crust. Around the edges, a thin, glowing ring of lava blazed like a fiery halo. "What's that bright area on the rim?" asked Ravi, leaning closer. Elena squinted. "That's where the crust is breaking. Fresh lava is being exposed as it cycles up from below." She paused, her voice dropping to a whisper. "It's beautiful and terrifying." The next image stunned everyone in the room. It captured a massive plume of volcanic gas and particles erupting from the lake, soaring kilometers into space. The plume glowed faintly in the infrared spectrum, a ghostly column of Io's inner heat escaping into the blackness. "Wow," someone murmured. The room fell silent as the scientists stared, awed by the power of the eruption. On Io, such plumes weren't rare. They were a constant reminder of the moon's restless nature. The heat maps were just as striking. Vibrant colors painted a vivid picture of Io's surface, with reds and oranges marking the hottest areas. Streams of lava glowed like rivers of fire, winding their way through calderas and cracks. "Look at the temperature difference," Elena said, pointing to the screen. "The crust is cool enough to stay solid, but just beneath it, molten magma is at over 1,200 degrees Celsius. That's why it cycles like this." Juno continued its silent watch, capturing every detail of the lake. It recorded how the crust moved, rising and sinking as magma pushed against it. At the edges, where the crust cracked, lava glowed fiercely, revealing Io's violent heart. Elena leaned back, overwhelmed by the beauty and complexity of what they were seeing. "It's like looking at a living creature," she said softly. "Io isn't just a moon, it's a world in constant motion." As Juno completed its pass over Chors Patera, it transmitted its final images of the lake before moving to its next target. For the team on Earth, these images weren't just scientific data. They were a glimpse into a place unlike any other in the solar system, a place where fire ruled and the landscape changed with every breath of Io's volcanic heart. In the quiet hum of NASA's control center, Dr. Elena Vasquez stood at the center of a circle of screens, each glowing with data from Juno. The spacecraft's latest observations had given them an unparalleled look at Io's surface. But the team's curiosity pushed deeper. What was happening beneath the crust of this fiery moon? Elena gestured to a large projection of Io's heat map, its surface a mosaic of red, orange, and yellow. "We've seen the eruptions, the glowing lakes, and the rising plumes," she began. "But these are just the surface effects. The real story lies inside Io." She clicked to the next slide. It showed a simulation of Jupiter and its moons, Io, Europa, and Ganymede, locked in their gravitational dance. As Io orbited closest to Jupiter, its shape stretched and compressed, like a ball of clay squeezed between giant hands. This constant flexing, called tidal heating, was the source of Io's extraordinary internal heat. "Imagine this," Elena said, her hands mimicking the squeezing motion. "Jupiter's gravity pulls Io one way, while the gravity of Europa and Ganymede pulls it another. The result? Friction inside Io's rocky layers, generating enormous amounts of heat." One of her colleagues, Ravi, leaned forward. "It's like a cosmic workout," he joked. "Io's interior gets so hot its rocks melt into magma." Elena smiled. "Exactly. That magma doesn't stay still either. It moves in cycles, rising to the surface through cracks and erupting as lava, then cooling to form a crust. Over time, the crust sinks, melts, and becomes magma again. It's a continuous loop, reshaping Io's surface constantly." She played a video simulation of this process, showing magma rising, erupting, cooling, and recycling. "This explains why Io doesn't have impact craters," she said. "On most moons, craters are scars from asteroid impacts. But on Io, volcanic activity erases them almost as quickly as they form. The surface is always new." The team studied another image from Juno, a massive volcanic caldera, its glowing edges hinting at the magma chamber below. "This is one of over 400 active volcanoes," Elena continued. "Each has its own magma chamber, fueled by tidal forces. These chambers aren't connected, but together, they release more heat than all of Earth's volcanoes combined." A younger scientist in the group raised a hand. "If Io's interior is so active, could it ever cool down?" Elena shook her head. "Not as long as it's locked in this gravitational tug-of-war. Jupiter's pull is relentless, and the energy keeps Io alive, if we can call it that." The room fell quiet as the team absorbed the implications. Io wasn't just a moon. It was a system in balance, its violent eruptions and glowing lakes a direct result of forces as old as the solar system itself. Elena looked at the projection of Io, its fiery surface so vivid it seemed alive. "What we're seeing on the surface," she said softly, "are whispers of a much louder story below. Io's heart is a furnace and its voice is fire." As the team prepared for the next stage of analysis, they couldn't help but marvel at how much Io still had to teach them. About volcanic worlds, about the power of gravity, and about the unrelenting forces that shape the universe. The warm sunlight filtered through the windows of the conference hall in Pasadena, California, as Dr. Elena Vasquez stepped up to the podium. In front of her sat an audience of students, journalists, and fellow scientists. Behind her, a large screen displayed a vibrant image of Io, its surface aglow with fiery reds and yellows, taken by the Juno spacecraft. "Ladies and gentlemen," she began, "what you see here is not just a moon. It's a world of fire, a living testament to the raw power of nature." Elena paused, letting the image speak for itself. The volcanic plumes, glowing lava lakes, and jagged calderas seemed almost alive. "Io is unlike anything we've ever seen. Its surface is being reshaped constantly. Its interior is alive with heat and motion, and its very existence challenges how we understand moons, planets, and geological processes." She clicked to the next slide, showing a heat map of Io's volcanic regions. "What we've discovered from Juno's observations is that Io is a planet-wide laboratory of volcanic activity. Each eruption, each plume, each glowing lake tells a story. It's a story of immense tidal forces, of internal recycling, and of energy so powerful it reshapes the moon's surface every day." Elena smiled as she spotted a young boy in the front row, wide-eyed and clutching a notebook. "You might ask," she continued, "why we care about a distant moon so far from Earth. The answer is simple. By studying Io, we learn more about ourselves. Io helps us understand volcanic activity on our own planet. It helps us imagine how heat and pressure work on worlds beyond Earth. And most importantly, it reminds us of the incredible diversity of the universe. The next slide displayed an image of Earth, followed by a close-up of Kilauea, an active volcano in Hawaii. Volcanoes on Earth erupt because of tectonic activity, magma rising from deep within the planet. But on Io, the process is entirely different. It's powered by gravitational forces. This teaches us that nature finds many ways to create and sustain energy. She ended the presentation with a video, a time-lapse of Io's volcanic plumes rising into space, captured in infrared by Juno. The audience watched in awe as the tiny moon seemed to breathe fire into the cosmos. For centuries, Elena concluded, humans have looked up at the stars and wondered. Io, with its volcanic heart and fiery surface, is a reminder that our universe is alive with motion, energy, and surprises. By exploring moons like Io, we take one small step closer to understanding the mysteries of our solar system, and perhaps, one day, the secrets of the universe. As the audience erupted into applause, Elena felt a sense of pride and hope. The discoveries from Io had already inspired a new generation of scientists and dreamers. Somewhere in the crowd, perhaps, was a future explorer who would take the next steps in unraveling the mysteries of the cosmos. The presentation ended, but Io's echoes would linger, an unearthly reminder of the boundless wonders waiting beyond our world.